Now we had a declaration as well from the PIJ, Saray al-Quds in particular, the armed wing of the PIJ, saying that an Israeli captive or prisoner of war attempted suicide in Gaza, and the medical team of the resistance saved him. Now, the Palestinian resistance says constantly how Israel tries to target these people, and the fact that many of them suffer from many conditions that the Palestinian population suffers from. At the end of the day, if there is starvation going in Gaza, and if Israel targeted all of the houses that some of the captives were in, or prisoners of war, that means they're going to be living in different conditions. And after Israel's massacres and trying to rescue some of them by killing some of them simultaneously, well, the Palestinian resistance told them, we're going to have to make the conditions tougher on them. At one point, Israel killed over 400 Palestinians to rescue 3 Israelis, and killed 4 Israelis in the process too. And one of those who were released said that the whole building collapsed on her because of the IDF attack. This is what they do. Yesterday we spoke about the finance minister and minister in the Ministry of Defense, Bezalel Smotrich, saying that he told the families of the Israeli prisoners of war that none of them might come back alive. We can't guarantee that any of them will come back alive. We can only guarantee that we'll get some of the bodies by military action, but nothing more than that. And they were shocked to a level where one of them is now taking Israel to the ICC, going and trying to help the case against Benjamin Netanyahu, and trying to convince Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor of the ICC, that Israel is committing a genocide not only in Gaza but also inside of Israel. Then we have more cases of suspected suicide in the Israeli army. This is something that Israel tries to cover a lot, and there is hardly any information about it, because in many cases those who commit suicide in the Israeli army, they don't even receive military funerals. And some of the families of those soldiers complained heavily. But then again, when you have military censorship, when you have emergency laws inside the state, no one can open their mouth. Otherwise, they'll be shoved in prison as well. Many of them are committing, according to this report, 38 at least. I mean, this is a very small number, and the real figures are most definitely higher than this. And this is not coming only from those who served in Gaza, but those who are also haven't been served in Gaza as well. Some of them who survived the Nova Festival, for example, when Israel targeted its own civilians in the Nova Festival. We've had reports previously that we spoke about that some of these people, those who survived the Nova Festival, were forcibly hospitalized. This was one of the reports that I shared with you previously. And 50 committed suicide. One of their representatives spoke in the Israeli Knesset previously, said that 50 committed suicide, and again, without Israel admitting this. But the most concerning thing is the forcibly hospitalized thing due to mental distress. How can you forcibly hospitalize someone? And what do they mean by mental distress exactly? Does everyone who participate in these parts of mental distress after all of that? These people saw something. What did they see? They saw their own army massacring the Israeli people, like they were massacring them in the Israeli settlements on the 7th of October, and blaming Hamas, who conducted a military operation on the 7th of October. Now, the majority of them have been forcibly hospitalized. This is a clear indication that this is beyond what Israel is saying, beyond mental distress and what have you. Israel has been hiding lots of these things, and they tried very, very heavily to censor everyone who spoke anything about the 7th of October inside of Israel. Yet despite that, there were still reports and there was still evidence coming out. And now they're even admitting that more people are committing suicide in the army. Now, when it comes to Gaza, the Palestinian resistance, they also attacked the Netzarim line. You see, Israel is, it's like a dystopia, really. They're selling this Netzarim line in the central part of Gaza, which is one of their main bases to try and split the north from the south, as like a wonderful place where soldiers can relax and have TV and spend some leisurely time, when they're committing a genocide and killing every Palestinian coming near that border to try and go home or go and try and get some food. Thousands of Palestinians have been killed near this area, and Israeli soldiers admitted that they were shooting to kill. And Israel is saying, oh no, this is a lovely place for our soldiers to come and sit and dine. We have TV, they can walk around in shorts, trying to portray it as some area that's like so safe and amazing. But the Palestinian resistance today targeted the place again with multiple missiles. And there were sirens heard. And of course, Israel did not talk a lot about the casualties, because again, they want to portray the place as if it's safe. They are trying to please the settlement clan in the Israeli government and their supporters, of course, in Israel, who want to build settlements in Gaza, create this illusion and fake reality that it's somehow going to be safe for them. But the Palestinian resistance is telling them, no, we're still here and we're going to target the Netzarim line as well, what you claim to be a safe haven for your soldiers. Now, moving on to the ceasefire. There have been multiple reports coming and statements from both sides, both from the Palestinian side and from the Israeli side as well. From the Palestinian side, it was Muhammad al-Hindi, he's the Deputy Secretary General of the PIJ, who said that despite all of this, despite everything that's happening, we are actually close to a deal in Gaza, even if it's a temporary one. Negotiations continue, and the battle in Gaza won't last for long. Israel failed in the battle and in attempts to force the Gazans into submission. The Israeli pressure, in terms of the massacres in Gaza, is there to add more conditions to the ceasefire. That's coming with reports that Israel is trying to change names in the last second. Some reports in Arab media are saying that Israel now, in the first phase, instead of getting civilians, they want to get soldiers. And that's typical Israeli behavior when it comes to the negotiations. But the Palestinian resistance is telling them, no, we will release only non-combatants in the beginning. And we won't give you the names as well, because we can't give you the names. You need to give us time. You need to stop. If you want us to give you names, this is what Hamas are telling them. You need to stop the war. We need to. We have difficulty in communicating, so you need to stop, so we can ensure each of those names are accurate, because each of the units protecting these people, these prisoners of war or captives, they are very secretive, and they are in different locations, and they need to move from one place to another too. So they're not entirely in communication, but Israel's saying, no, you need to give us names. Again, trying to make things impossible, or trying to extract as much as possible to the last second. But clearly, that's not going to work with the Palestinian resistance. Hamas, it didn't work with them before. Why should it work with them now? This has been going on for a very long time now. And ever since the temporary ceasefire, well, Hamas hasn't really changed anything significant apart from small details to try and actually have leniency somewhere where they can be lenient, but not at the expense of the ending of the war and the core conditions: ending the war, withdrawing from Gaza, allowing all aid in, getting the people back to their homes, and starting the rebuilding process alongside the, of course, temporary housing for all of those who have had their homes destroyed. And we're talking about large numbers here. What is Israel saying? What is Israel saying? Israel is saying that there's slow progress and fraught with difficulties Netanyahu to determine the mandate of the delegation in the negotiations. So in this article, they're saying that no, there's still negotiations, not that there's no negotiations. We have a delegation in Qatar. Many are calling this last round of talks in Qatar as the make it or break it. So it's the most crucial part of the negotiations. Now, both delegations of Hamas and Israel were in Cairo. An Egyptian delegation was in Israel. Qatar re-entered the negotiations after they left before due to a lack of seriousness from Benjamin Netanyahu. They said officials at the time, they didn't name him, but it was evident that it was him. But now they're saying that, these reports are saying that there is progress. Netanyahu is going to send a delegation. It's slow, but it's still ongoing. Now, another interesting thing here is the fact that there was a senior figure or an important figure in these talks, the coordinator for the prisoners and missing persons, Gal Hirsch from Israel. He said that, commenting on the deadlock, some people are saying there's a deadlock. He's saying no. He told the families of the prisoners that these reports are not true and that the negotiations were continuing under heavy cover-up, heavy censorship, and enormous effort. And this man has no interest in hiding things. And according to the families, Hirsch also noted that Israel is working to return all of the abductees. Now, Egypt is saying that our focus is to get the first phase up and running. And there are also reports that Hamas don't have a problem with an all-out deal. They said Hamas don't have a problem in having an all-out deal, exchange all of your prisoners for all of our prisoners, but so long as you end the war and adhere to the other conditions of the war, withdrawing to aid, rebuilding, getting all of the people back. As a matter of fact, this was on the table from a very long time ago, but they're repeating it. The fact that mediators are repeating this is very important too. But from an Egyptian mediator perspective, what they're saying now, they're struggling very much and putting a lot of effort to get the first phase up and running. Because according to the Egyptian mediators, if they get the ball rolling with the initial phase, that means all of the other processes will run smoothly. It's just about getting this first very difficult step. And the reason that this first step is so difficult is, again, the position that the Palestinian side is taking. The fact that Hamas wants guarantees at the end of the day that the war will end and that they will be withdrawing. They're willing to show leniency when it comes to the schedule, the timing, all of that, even if Israel wants an all-for-all deal, which is not looking likely because it would look very humiliating to Israel. And Netanyahu also needs to please Smotrich and Ben Gvir too. And the fact that they don't want a repeat of the temporary ceasefire problem. When Israel went in, had this temporary ceasefire, and then the war continued for up to a year. No, Hamas do not want to get in this situation, and they're not going to give Israel any sort of gifts. They're not going to give them information about who's alive, who's dead. Sometimes they do release certain things about prisoners of war who Israel killed in Gaza due to certain strikes. And that is, of course, is seen in Israel, especially from the families of the prisoners, the Israelis. And then people in Israel have been criticizing the government for so long. Now, how likely is this round to bring any results? It's the same as before when it comes to the prospect of having a result or not having a result. At the same time that there is this negotiation path, there are other escalations. I mean, Israel's still committing a genocide against the Palestinian people. People are still suffering. They are expanding their attacks in Lebanon. They are still attacking in Syria, and they are attacking in Yemen, and they're threatening Iran. So Israel could be doing all of this as a show of strength, but at the same time, there has been a ceasefire in Lebanon that the Lebanese resistance is clearly interested in. Because now in Lebanon, Hezbollah are trying to pass the responsibility to the Lebanese army. I'm not sure if this is like a tactic from Hezbollah to try and bring them in the war with Israel. I mean, the Lebanese army, they don't usually participate in any war with Israel. It's the Lebanese resistance. And also with some talks about having this new resistance front in Lebanon that would gather more Lebanese. But what they have given Israel is an ultimatum. They told Israel, day 61 will be different, Hezbollah. We spoke about this a couple of days ago, and the fact that Israel is still attacking and still controlling areas, occupying areas in Lebanon. Hezbollah told them, no, we can't tolerate that for the period after the 60 days. Then if you don't have full withdrawal and everything stops, that means you're going to see a different reality. And by the way, this reality could be very explosive, very quickly. Judging by how Hezbollah ended their round with Israel, they ended it with the biggest attack that they ever had on Israel when it comes to missiles, approximately 500 missiles altogether, many of them on central Israel, with the Iron Dome being obliterated and failing miserably. So that's something that needs to be considered. The fact that, well, Israel is on two paths here, escalation and also negotiation. Now, there's an argument that this negotiation is only a cover-up and they're planning to continue. But really and truly, the fact of the matter is, on the ground, Israel will not be able to continue. 50% refusal, 50% of reservists refusing orders, tens of thousands of killed and wounded when it comes to the IDF, a military that has been exhausted, demoralized, people who have no faith in their government, their military. They're trying to cover all of that up with these aggressions here and there to try and portray it as something different. Yet, despite that, the resistance outside of Palestine, they haven't gone on something major enough that they can actually accomplish against Israel at this period. Is it something to do with timing? Is it something to do with preparedness? Is it something to do with weakness or certain things that they need to approve or obtain for the future? Could be. All of these things could be. Could be the case, basically. Could be reasons for why there isn't really something all out against Israel, right? And again, much of that will come from Iran. Iran might have different calculations when it comes to Israel. How, when, the scale. At the end of the day, Iran declared that they're not interested in an all-out war, but that they won't let everything go or, pass on every Israeli attack and the fact that they're attacking Iran at certain points too. Which leads me to the case of Iran. So there was a report in Axios that the Biden administration discussed plans to strike Iran, to strike nuclear sites in Tehran if they speed up towards a bomb. And I'm really not sure what to make of this report, really, because the fact, the United States and even Israel, they've been saying that, Iran is just, at one point they said 1 week from a bomb, at one point 1 year from a bomb. Every time they come up with this new number of how far Iran is from a bomb, right? It became boring. It became boring. But why are they saying this now? Why are they reporting this? Well, it could be due to many reasons. Number one, this could be a show coming from the United States administration to Israel. Because there's a lot of things that are just for show, really, with no substance whatsoever. Listen, we will back you if you want to attack Iran, but we might need to have a ceasefire. Or, Iran, we warn you not to attack in case something happens. We might change our position when it comes to Israel attacking you in the future. Because so far, the US position when it comes to attacking Iran for the past 15 months, unlike in previous years, by the way, in previous years, the United States used to say, if Iran attacks Israel, we'll like annihilate Iran and a regime change, and all of that changed since the war in Gaza, since the genocide in Gaza. And the official position of the United States has been, for the past 15 months, is that Israel can attack, we will help defend them, but we will not participate with them. Now, really and truly, the United States logistical support, missiles, at the end of the day, the US is Israel and Israel is the US, right? But there wasn't an active US participation against Iran. That's undeniable. In the first Iranian attack, when the US and other countries helped Israel take down some of these missiles, Biden told Netanyahu, you got to win, take the win. The senior figures in the US Army, they told Gallant as well, we won't attack Iran with you, but we will help you defend yourself. Likewise, the foreign minister at the time, Katz, who's now a defense minister, tried to speak with the British and French foreign ministers at the time, telling them, if we attack Iran, we hope that you participate with us. The French foreign minister found it offensive, and he even had reported comments on that previously. So it's not like there's a consensus when it comes to Israel attacking Iran. But this could be a signal from the Biden administration that we might actually change our view when it comes to attacking you or Israel attacking you, and you could potentially participate if you either attack or if you decide to take action that will make Israel's security even worse. What could Iran do? Well, Iran could do many things. Iran could do many things when it comes to support. Iran could do many things when it comes to logistics. Iran and the technology and assistance they give for the resistance fronts in the region is undeniable. However, how likely would it be that the US actually attacks Iran now before Trump comes to power? That doesn't really look very likely. Doesn't really look very likely. In the US, well, there's a problem when it comes to the military itself. There's more criticism coming from the military establishment, including active personnel. Well, there were reservists and an active member of the army who committed these bombings in the US just a couple of days ago. And, well, are they capable of going on an all-out attack? And if they have a strike on Iran, what do they think that there won't be any sort of retaliation against that attack? All of these things need to be taken into consideration. Now, when it comes to the threats, it's not only Biden, it's also Trump. Trump also has a hostile approach towards Iran. But again, it could only be all talk, because Donald Trump likes to talk a lot and likes to threaten a lot. And many of these things are just simply statements. And they contradict themselves. Like Donald Trump, for example, saying that I want to end all wars in the Middle East, and he's constantly talking about Iran, to a level where he actually even entertained the reports coming from the United States about potential Iranian involvement in his assassination. An absurd and ridiculous proposition. If Iran does this, they know what we can do. It appears to be show, more than anything, and talk potentially to please his Zionist donors. Saying that, there's undeniably a chance that something might happen. However, when it comes to Iran are clearly prepared. Iran are clearly prepared, and are clearly prepared with both China and Russia. Recent statements coming from Iran about more strategic and defense coordination, and military and economy and political coordination with China. Their ties with Russia are very well known on the military side, on the economic side. Well, Iran helped Russia in Ukraine. Russia helped Iran with certain weapons and defense systems. They have backers at the end of the day. And it's about how far, really, the US administration is willing to go with this warmongering, because the main problem is the US administration with its presence globally, military presence, with its state-sponsored terror against other countries. And it's a country with the most waged wars, which are acts of terror, illegal acts of terror against other sovereign nations, by the way. But they like to sugarcoat them and promote them as a democracy. That's state-sponsored terrorism against other innocent nations. And no matter how much you want to spread propaganda or try and portray them as something else, that doesn't really change the fact that's state-sponsored terrorism from the United States, which is in essence a militaristic oligarchy spreading nothing but wars and chaos across the world. So there is that prospect. However, a moment where we're simply 25 days away from Donald Trump actually becoming the US president, coming to office, and a sensitive period where there are reports of a potential ceasefire and potentially very advanced phases, or the most crucial phase of a ceasefire. It's unlikely that something will explode all of a sudden in this period, despite Israeli attempts to try and act as if they are the decision makers in the region, because all of that will be changing, and it will be changing very, very quickly against Israel and against the United States as well. And these were the main things that I want to talk to you about in this video. As usual, I hope I shed some light and added some beneficial information for you. And I will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Peace.